The FIA have just made the whole 2025 season redundant, and they might as well give out the trophies right now. As last week it has been reported that the FIA will tighten front-wing flexing restrictions starting with the Spanish Grand Prix. The FIA will cut the allowance for front-wing flexibility by 33%. Leaving the teams scrambling, how are they going to approach the season, knowing that all work on the front of the car is useless after the first 8 races? Especially for the teams that still have to develop this front wing. This means that McLaren and Mercedes are at a huge advantage due to the fact that their front wing is already developed and illegal, according to the new rules. How fair is that? So the FIA has just confirmed that the Technical Directive number 18 will be changed. This is not a safety change, but rather a step to level performance. However, returning to old flex gauges may result in some surprises. Some engineers have said that they are concerned about the potential reappearance of porpoising making things even worse. So we're not just talking about a performance difference in the first 8 races compared to the last 16, but it could also shuffle the whole field up once again. This could pose a significant danger in constructing large interventions for the new floors. Teams may need to implement countermeasures to boost floor clearance, which could slow down the cars. Porpoising, as previously stated, is unpredictable in wind tunnels and simulators. Fundamentally, this is because there is no easy way for the teams to simulate this behavior above 200 km per hour. On-track data is the primary resource for addressing this problem. Greater front-wing flexibility has been proved in recent years to increase performance in both slow and fast turns, significantly lowering the likelihood of hazardous bouncing in high-speed turns. What worries F1 technicians, particularly those from smaller teams, is the need for additional downforce to stay up with competitors. Concerns regarding how to limit porpoising while maintaining continual progress have emerged. The increased overall stiffness on the front axle, in the absence of a logical correlation, could result in a considerable performance drop, especially for the teams that are fully dependent on their front wing, such as McLaren and Mercedes. However, it's highly likely they are thus far ahead, no one can come close again, just like Brawn and Jenson Button with their double diffuser in 2009. Given the upcoming FIA directive, teams may be forced into adjustments that hurt performance and could bring back porpoising. Top teams can rapidly deal with the interruption caused by this new technological directive. They will be able to compensate for their losses by expanding into other areas. Meanwhile, teams with lesser tools may suffer if they do not have sufficient front wings. This is a noteworthy risk that widens the gap between teams, particularly in the second half of the season. Some engineers believe that stiffer front wings will constrain top teams and bring them together, as the FIA desires. However, this equalization may only be transitory. Meanwhile, this TD depletes considerable resources from the smaller teams working on their 2026 car, as they must reallocate time and money to work around the new FIA directive. The actual question is, why wasn't the push-ups motif defined in October, once the embarrassing Mini DRS saga was over? This was undoubtedly a better solution than checking the front wings were legal before making a U-turn at the start of 2025. It is also claimed that certain elements of pressure arose in the FIA corridors during the winter to reduce the margin of operation for push-ups. And all of things hasn't gone down lightly with the teams as well. Some have now put significant resources in something that they can only use for 8 races, whilst other teams already had this part of their car ready, freeing up costly funds for other upgrades down the line. Anyway, it's now set in stone, and starting with the Spanish Grand Prix, the FIA will implement this new technical directive. The ultimate goal is to limit the flexing of the front wings. The FIA implemented this approach to assure fairness and compliance with technical regulations for all cars. However, what came after wasn't anticipated, and that's not even all. More information about the rear wings will be available beginning with the Australian Grand Prix. The FIA has previously addressed the Mini DRS spotted in Baku on the MCL38, so any changes are unlikely to be drastic. This discovery, which was tested by Red Bull shortly after, sparked the technical war at the end of 2024. Since the Miami Grand Prix, the 2024 Formula One season took an unexpected turn, with Red Bull giving up their dominance to McLaren. This shift has been largely ascribed to the advent of so-called flex-wings. These wings are a new aerodynamic solution that enables teams to strike a balance between grip in slow bends and stability in high speeds. As a result, their flexi-wings overcome both low-speed understeer and high-speed oversteer, considerably enhancing total car performance. This method has enabled the use of firmer suspension without affecting aerodynamic balance, converting McLaren from an outsider to a competitive leader, and displacing Red Bull's former dominance. We realized that aeroelasticity had unexplored potential, and so we pushed like crazy in that direction, admitted Andrea Stella during last season. Mercedes then introduced their own version in the form of a front wing, which debuted at Monaco. Ferrari was the last of the elite teams to develop their own version, which they took to Austin. Red Bull. The Milton Keynes team was taken aback by the efficiency of the flexible wings offered by its opponents. Red Bull's technical director, Pierre Wache, admitted that these advances enabled competitors to rebalance their cars and outperform Red Bull. It was also evident that Red Bull was dealing with significant correlation concerns. This meant that the lack of a flexing front wing specification was only one of the RB20's issues, and far from the most serious. Red Bull and Ferrari petitioned the FIA to investigate the legality of their flexible wings, questioning if they exceeded restrictions. The FIA found no infringements, leaving Red Bull facing new technical hurdles without regulatory support. During the season, the FIA decided not to tighten or add extra testing for flexi-wings in 2024 to 2025, leaving some teams shocked. We were convinced that the FIA would ban these wings after the installation of the new cameras from the race in Belgium, Fred Vasseur recalled. However, they decided otherwise, and that cost us 1 or 2 months. While Red Bull was attempting to analyze and comprehend the RB20's correlation issues, without devoting money to aeroelasticity, Ferrari made a bold decision to bring its first actual version of a flexible front wing to the track. This enabled the SF24 to make significant progress following the Monza upgrades, winning in both Monza and Mexico. Ferrari outperformed everyone else in the second half of the season. Christian Horner's squad was less concerned, however. After all, they had an entire winter to make up ground gained by their competitors due to the aeroelasticity of these flexi-wing aircraft. Milton Keynes committed a significant amount of effort and money in strengthening the flexibility of the RB21's wings, only to discover the FIA's U-turn on flexi-wings and their regulation. They will now pay close attention to how much the front wings bend during static tests. This applies to both internal 3mm to 2mm and external flaps 15mm to 10mm. Rivals believe McLaren put pressure on the FIA for stricter testing, following a season finale in which Ferrari shone outstanding competitiveness, and Red Bull showed hints of resolving correlation concerns. Those with an edge in terms of creativity are frequently the first to act in attempting to limit a certain technical solution, often after having already looked at an alternative. Similar incidents have occurred before, especially during the so-called oil war. When lubricant was employed to boost engine power, Mercedes began to seek clarification. This proposal was made with Ferrari in mind when the Maranello learnt about Mercedes's earlier deception. It is obvious that teams should reassess their aerodynamic options. Previous designs will need to be changed in light of the FIA's new guidelines. This has cost teams both time and money. This is especially true for Red Bull, with the Milton Keynes crew unhappy that their resources are being squandered. So, they can only use it for 8 races now, and after that, it can be thrown in the bin. Will this cause major upsets for the 2025 season? And above all, will this result in the return of porpoising? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.